It's just me and not CFB3 today. We highlight what's wrong with college football. We're excited about the new college football video game. And is Michigan in trouble for 2024? All that next on the 4th and 1 podcast.
Did we just see everything we just saw?
Hello and welcome, everybody. It is your host, Captain Boring, today with a CFB3 Roberto. Welcome to an all-new episode of the 4th and 1 podcast. We've been gone quite a while, taking a little break, but I felt like it was time to at least come back for this week. We're still on a week-by-week basis, but Robert could make it. Simeon could not, so he is a loser for that, and we will let him hear about it there. Robert, good to see you, my friend. Are you still basking in the glory of being a 2023 national champion?
You know, it's just nice waking up every morning. No cares in the world. The football gods have finally decided it was our time, and it just, it never felt so good. Never experienced this amount of just pure joy after year in, year out. Brady Hoke, Rich Rodriguez, you just never thought it was going to happen. And now that it has, you just don't. I would be okay if they were like, college football's done. Michigan's the last ever champion. It is what it is. I'm okay with that.
Well, Michigan might be the last ever champion who puts their team together and then develops and have kids stay 5, in this case, some 6 years. College football is going the way of, as we know, NIL, but even more so transfer portal. Now, NCAA finally updated the rules a little bit. The kids aren't going to be able to transfer quite as much. The COVID waivers, this upcoming year will be the last round of COVID waivers, which will be good. But Robert, I want to start here. Jeff Hafley, head coach, college football, Boston College program. Got the hell out of Dodge, went and took the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator position. Chip Kelly, just recently, head coach, UCLA, very good program. He rebuilt that program at least to mediocrity, okay? But let's be honest, UCLA was the bottom of the barrel, and now he rebuilt it. Solid 8-win team a year. Left to be a head coach. Took the offensive coordinator position at Ohio State. You have head coaches leaving mid-majors to take coordinator jobs at Power 5s. Kent State's head coach just most recently did it with Colorado last year. He then left to take another offensive coordinator position somewhere else in the Pac-12. Roberts. Is college football in trouble when you have head coaches? The goal always was become a head coach and then become a head coach at a big-time program. But we have a head coach, multiple head coaches leaving big-time programs to be coordinators again. Does that say college football's in trouble?
In trouble? Yes and no, but is it showing that college football is trending in the wrong direction? Absolutely. We've never seen bigger time coaches either just leave or just go and be an offensive coordinator at another college. Like that just doesn't happen. The goal ultimately is to be a head coach, regardless of if it's the NFL or college. But I mean, NIL, it was good. It's a good thing and a bad thing, because it's good because, the players are getting, their fair share of the pie, but it's like, this is actually becoming more of a detrimental piece than it is a good thing. For the players, they could probably care less. But when you're looking at, you have to start looking at colleges as more of an organization than a system of higher education, which that's obviously not how you want to look at a college. But I mean, we have third string players wanting $100,000. That kid's not even going to touch the field.
Yeah, I think that part's the concerning part. Third stringers want $100,000. A sense of entitlement, sense of everybody's special, which, if you're playing D1 football, I mean, you are kind of special, but the big argument, and I forget what was happening at the time. For basically at the start of NIL, when NIL talks first started, I'm talking maybe 10 years ago, right? So like baby steps. It was like, well, the football players are going to get more than women's gymnastics because they're because they're more popular and on TV. And to what I said and what a lot of adults said at that time, Robert, was life ain't fair. You might as well get used to it in college. That's just how the crumble works. Yes, the polo team does not bring in as much revenue as the football team. The gymnastics team does not bring in as much revenue as the basketball team, right? Men's or women's, because women's basketball is getting kind of popular among, at least in college, I would say. Women's basketball is much more popular than women's NBA, the WNBA. But these kids eventually will realize that not everyone is worth the money that they think they're worth, right?
Yeah.
All right. So all these kids want some money. Not all kids are going to get it. What I am most concerned about is that I heard Pete Thamel talking, and he was talking to a head coach, and he said, I chose college football over the NFL, being an assistant in the NFL, because I could coach more in college, right? The pie, if you're looking at a pie chart, a bigger slice of that pie in college was me actually coaching. Now, it's the opposite. Because you have NIL and transfer portals, you have to recruit your own team on a year in, year out basis. Even if none of your staff changes, you still have to recruit the players on your team, which I just think is ridiculous. So, Robert, let me just throw this question to you. What is one thing you would do to help college football stop trending in the direction that it is currently in, which we both agree is not the direction we want it to go?
Oh, you froze there for a minute. I mean, there has to be rules and regulations on, at least more rules and regulations on NIL.
Give me a rule. I want you to be specific. Give me a rule that you would put into place to stop the trending down and make it kind of steady itself and go up.
I would put not so much as a salary cap, but I would put, like, so your first string players make between X and X, second string X and X, third string X and X. That way, you have to make it flat across the board. Like, it's not a conference to conference thing. It's not a team to team thing. We go and you say Power 5 conferences straight across the board. Your players can only make between this and this. What they make on the side, that's kind of, I guess, that's under the table stuff, which, that's every school's going to do that. They did that back in the 70s and 80s, but I think there needs to be some sort of cap on what these kids can make, because it's essentially getting out of hand to where kids should not be looking and going, I can stay an extra year of college football and make almost what I can make in the NFL. It's like, no, that's not what college is for. College is to get to that next step. You go out there, say Marv Harrison stays at an extra year, tears his ACL. There you go. You just went from a first round draft pick down to at least a third. I also think each college needs to have a general manager to take the load off of the coach themselves. Whether the AD becomes like a general manager, or like some form of a manager to where like the coaches can focus on coaching. The GM worries about, okay, we're going to bring this guy in, this guy in, this guy in, essentially kind of like an NFL system.
Well, colleges are actually doing that now. Michigan just hired a GM. Ohio State, Alabama, they all have what they're just calling a general manager to manage all of the NIL stuff. I would be very hesitant. I'm still not on board with paying the players outright. I'm all for them making money, name, image, and likeness. If you want to do a revenue share, more than happy to do a revenue share, but then it starts getting into employees and employers, right? Which is the argument. I say the conferences, first of all, cut the NCAA out completely. Make the conferences distribute the revenue to each college, and then each college says, okay, football team, you're going to get X amount of the revenue share, right? And make that all public and make everyone know, but make it more as in... Well, actually, here's what I would do. I just came up with a brilliant idea right now. Robert, if you stay 3+ years out of college, you get a share of the revenue when you graduate. Or even if you don't graduate, as long as you stay 3+ years, you get a share of the revenue, whatever that is, however that's defined. You know, the conference, the Big Ten will give Michigan.
Like for like just that year?
No,
because essentially you would have missed out on the 2 years that you were there.
It goes into a pot. And it's like you have to be there 3+ years to get it. That would stop the high volume of transfers, right, in the portal. You would have to stay there 3+ years, but say like you would have gotten $40,000 the first year, $50,000 the second year, and $80,000 the third year, you know, because the money goes up every single year.
Right.
They would just put $40,000 in an account, $50,000 in an account, $80,000 in an account, and then when you graduate or move on after that, you get that sum as a gift, So it's not technically employee; it's kind of like a bonus.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, and then you can make your NIL money, but then it's not employees and employers and collective bargaining agreement and athletes 18-year-olds whining about how they have to play on turf instead of grass, and 18-year-olds whining about how they don't get to how they're practicing too much, and 18-year-olds whining about how they're going to class too often, and because the academic portion still has to mean something in my mind.
Yeah, you're still going to a system of higher education. I just think that's if we're being honest with ourselves, that's eventually you're not going to go to college. It's not going to be college. Like right. You're not, because especially when they, early in the year when they said the commissioner of the NCAA, whatever his name is, said he wants to create that separate league.
Right. The ultimate tier league. Yeah.
Right. Well, essentially you're just separating college from sports at that point, and then it's literally you're just going for the sports. So I feel like it's just such a hard and a slippery slope that there's not a very good answer in sight in the short term, but long term wise, so there has to be a solution out there. I just don't know what it is.
I mean, the Big Ten and SEC have joined and not made an alliance. They what do they call it? A collective, whatever they're calling it, right? Yeah. They have made one of these to help the NCAA navigate and throw their ideas in the half of how to stabilize college football because they don't like how it's going. Number one, and first and foremost, and this is A, and then B is about 20 million miles below A, they are protecting the billions of dollars they are going to make from TV contracts. Right. That's what the SEC and Big Ten are doing. B is that eventually there are going to be two leagues, and it's going to be the SEC and the Big Ten, right? First of all, Big Ten, change your name, because at that point you'll have 30-some teams in it, so change your name, get better. Okay,
Big North.
Yeah, Big North, here we go.
Big
North and South.
Big South.
I mean, South.
Civil War.
Yeah.
back full circle, man. It all comes back.
We those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. I do think that there's a little part of this alliance, collective, whatever it's called, that they're like, no, we need to do this because the sport's getting away from us. They're mostly just doing this to protect their collective interests. So here's what would be on Micaiah's list. Not that anyone asked, and then we're gonna move on to a much funner topic. That's not a word, but I'm not a more. Thank you. Whatever. My uncle. He comments on my 10-minute sports report with all this fancy language that I have to Google. He's a history professor at the University of Akron. He would be so disappointed in my more funner, but that's besides the point. Don't pay the players. You can give them a share of the revenue, but it has to be in a use it to your advantage. Use it to say you have to stay 3 years. You have to add a program to enable to get it, unless if your coach changes or something, right, that will allow you to transfer once. You have to so if you want to do revenue share, that's fine. NIL, that's fine, but it can't be a salary thing where you're recruiting players and you're like, we'll give you this much money to come play for us, sort of thing. It has to be, you can only talk about NIL once you're in college, and the education has to mean something. So you either need, if you are going to pay the players, then take the scholarship and give it to someone else who needs it besides a football player, and make them physically pay for their education with their NIL money and salary money, or make them give the amount that their scholarship is worth, put that into a fund for other kids who are not sports related or who are sports related. And, you know, like Michigan's lacrosse team, they just came up from the club level. And so I don't know how many kids of those are on scholarship, but I'm sure it's not too many, or the lower levels, you know, so you could give it a scholarship to a walk-on or something like that. That's my personal opinion. That's what I would do to fix college football. But who wants to listen to us, right? No one. No one wants to listen to us. All right, Robert. Here's what we're doing.
We're doing it.
NCAA football coming out at some point, right? June, July, August, maybe before then, right? No one knows, right. But we're guessing July. First and foremost, I need everyone, if you're going to create a meme with a fake page about an EA Sports announcement, it's not going to be NCAA Football 24. Because that's the year we're going into. It's always the year that it finishes on. So it's going to be called NCAA Football or College Football 25. We're not sure.
I don't even know if they're doing the year anymore. I think they said they're just going to do EA Sports College Football.
Okay, great. So no years, make it look legit. We still haven't seen a trailer. We were all hoping Super Bowl Sunday. Never happened. Is what it is. Robert, I'm going to put you on the spot. We're going to kind of go back and forth, and I was hoping to have Simeon here, but maybe it's better because he never really got into it that much. But what is one thing, and it can be anything. It can be gameplay, feature, coaching style, anything, playbook, anything. What is one thing that you need this game to have in order for you to be like, this is good, it's been gone 10 years. Like, this feels right with it being back. What do you need to see?
I would need to see... that's kind of a tough one. Because,
yeah, isn't it?
Like, the biggest points that I always look at are how they handle the recruiting in the game, how the transfer portal is going to be implemented, but then also I was always a big player of the Road to Glory portion. And if you can just give me the fact that I got to go back to class, do the quizzes in the Road to Glory, you know, just loading it up and hearing the soundtrack play is going to be kind of good enough for me.
I need it not to be too complicated in terms of the coaching trees. in
Yeah.
Dynasty. That's what I need. Like, don't make this game complicated. The difference in between Madden, which we both love and hate, if you watch the streams, the difference between NCAA football and Madden was that NCAA football always was a little easier, I'm going to say. Simplified. Thank you. NCAA 14 had the coaching trees, and what I mean by coaching trees was when you go on, you get, when you level up in experience points, you can then upgrade your coaching tree. So one click might be, one box. It had two: one for recruiting, one for game management. One was your kickers don't freeze at the end of games, right? That was one box. You click that box,
Right.
your kicker no longer freezes. In the recruiting box, it would be like you have a 15% better chance to sign a recruit that's out of state than if you didn't click, and then if you didn't use that upgrade or whatever. Madden has taken now that idea the past 3 games, and basically expanded upon it and made it 3 trees for you and both your coordinators, and it's different each time depending on who you're coordinating. I don't need that. I need one for recruiting, and if you want to mix NIL in there, that's fine. And I need one for game plan, and then your coordinators, you can have 2. In the past, they had 1. It's okay, give me 2, because then you could do a position. You could be like, it's an offensive coordinator, but he's going to coach the quarterback. So then, the quarterbacks get certain upgrades or whatever. I'm all fine with that. I just need it not to be complicated, right? I need it to be, I'm able to go in and do what I want to do and be able to get on a dynasty track and make the college football playoff if I'm a good player in my first year. That's what I always love. Like, you could take an 0-12 team, and if you were really, a really good player, you go from 0-12 to probably top 10 in the country that first year. And that's what I need.
If you manipulate your schedule enough.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, you got
that needs to be in it too.
The customized schedules.
Yeah, that's got to be in it.
Oh yeah. So I love the customized schedules. The Road to Glory, yes, give me the classes like 06, 07. That was a whole bunch of fun. I don't know why they got away with that. They're gonna put Ultimate Team in it, which I mean
that's the money grab portion of it, but
yeah, I can do without Ultimate. I don't play a whole bunch of mutt, as the Madden people call it. I mean, we'll see. Maybe I'll get into it. I find mutt very complicated.
I mean, it can be, yeah, but mutt's not bad. It's just it's hard to get into it if you're not willing to put money into it to get the packs, to get the certain players, and that's where it gets annoying. But I mean, the challenges that are usually involved are usually fine. It's a good way to like get to know the game.
Sure.
But I mean, that'll be interesting. Thursday, I don't know if you know this, but Thursday there's supposed to be
breaking news.
For the game.
Okay.
So Thursday, apparently, each college, if they're involved in the game or like in the game, they're supposed to drop like some sort of like, what does it say? Like a multiple school-based sources.
Humans are pretty dumb.
I was like, what are you saying? Multiple school-based sources have told me to expect a small EA Sports college football update on the 15th, when schools will share social graphics confirming their participation in the game.
Okay, let's go.
Now, I think the big thing they're worried about is, are all 134 going to be in it? Because Notre Dame was a holdout for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's like, maybe we only get 110, which...
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like 100 more than I need, right?
Yeah. Essentially need. I mean, let's be honest. All I need is Michigan because all I can
Yeah.
do is whoop up on Ohio State and Penn State every year. So
Yeah. I need that. So I'm excited for Thursday now. Awesome. Let's go. Excited for Thursday. I need the game to be simplified, better than Madden. The customizable schedule. What don't we need in this game? What don't we need, Robert?
the doing the mascot games.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Like the mascots need to be in the game, but I don't need to play as the mascots in the game.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
it's a fun feature, but it's kind of a feature that's really not needed.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, like I
because
don't need the gimmick stuff. Again, I look at Ultimate Team as gimmicky. Now, say what you will about it, people enjoy it, so and that's fine. I've just never been a big fan of it. Robert, you dabbled a whole lot more than I have,
I
but
also don't need X factors.
oh, okay. All right. How would you do it
They're
like
just
06,
stars.
07 where you get like one on defense, one on offense, and once they enter the zone that they can do like a highlight play or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could do. I think Madden puts like a cap on like 3 on offense, 3 on defense. I mean, 2 is fine. 1, 2, 3, whatever. But like, I don't need because this is part of the whole complexity version where now I have to go onto my wide receiver, pick what his skill is going to be, whether he can catch better in double coverage, or he's really good at the slants, or he's really good at outside, or your running back, you can be able to spin left or right, and you can like manually do it. It's like that's where the complexity version comes in, and I don't need that much into them because again, you're only going to have these kids for 4 years at the max.
Right. Right.
Like, just give me how it used to be where they just used to put like the star underneath them. They were a star player. They just meant they were above like a 90 overall. Like I'm cool with that.
I'm also okay with that. Again, if you want to go more simplified, that would definitely fall into that category, and I'm all about that, as I've previously said. I also don't need NIL and transfer portal to be super complicated things.
I bet you that's going to be just
It's going
a
to be a
monster.
whole nother subset of the dynasty, and I don't need it to be. If you, I'd be okay if they put NIL on autopilot and make it one of those things where you have no control over it. So, I'm playing with Michigan. I'm playing with Alex Orgy. Junior year, I win the Heisman or whatever, and then I get a notification. Alex Orgy left because he took a better NIL offer at Old Miss or whatever. I'd be like, you know what? Okay. I didn't have to do anything. I literally just simmed the weeks, and I'm fine with that. I don't need to be a whole complicated. Again, if you want to make it part of the tree where it's like one ability you can upgrade like 3 times, it's like this ability puts more money into your NIL. This ability puts 2 times the amount of money into the NIL. This ability puts 5 times the amount of money into your NIL pot, right? That will get divvied out amongst
Right.
the players. I'm fine with that. I don't need it to be like the Madden re-sign screen, right? Where you're trying to how much like I don't need
Right.
it to be Madden Junior. I know college football is getting to that, but I don't need it to be that.
What they could do is remember how the recruiting you would like your slider was like 500 points was the most you could put on a player. And I was like,
Unless if
you
you
could do
upgraded the
that.
recruiting to make it like 750. Yeah, yeah.
Right. You do that same concept, but instead of like recruiting points, that's your NIL.
Oh, okay.
And it's like,
Sure.
you can do it that way. And then at the end of the season where it says, okay, these players went for the draft, these ones are transferring out, and you could always convince them to stay.
Yeah.
And and it was like promise them national championship, conference championship, more playing time, more games home away, whatever. There you can put an option in there, offer, and it's a simple option. You just make it the same thing no matter no matter what Tom, Dick, or
Right.
Harry it is, no matter what school it is. You just say like offer more NIL,
Right.
and it's like if you click that one and it's like, well, they might stay, they might not, and it's like, well then You get like two options. You can do that one, and then you pick another one. If they decide to stay, they stay. If not, they not. And you just do it that way. I mean, that would be pretty simple.
Yeah, no, again, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for overcomplicated things with NIL. I don't need this game to be complicated. I want to be able to boot up and do a 12-year dynasty where I'm winning natty after natty, and I'm making Nick Saban look like Brady Hoke's coaching
6
career.
hours.
Yeah, I'm trying to look like Nick Saban. Okay,
I'm trying to gain weight here.
Exactly. I'm not trying to look like Brady Hoke around here. Let's go. All right, Robert. You will be disappointed if this one tradition, and I leave that's blank, is not in the game.
I mean, any of them, really. But I guess like the big ones. I'm trying to think, because all the games pretty much had most of your traditions in it, like Michigan hitting the banner. Texas always ran out with Bevo.
Well, right, it had their entrance, but I'm talking like, because now a lot of teams do like stuff like mid-game, like Wisconsin does jump around, Michigan does Mr. Brightside, right?
Yeah.
Alabama, okay. Nebraska turns out the lights and
they
does
turn red and stuff like that.
Yeah, a little red show, right? So I'm talking stuff like that, right? Like at the bounce house, UCF, after they score a touchdown, that place is like vibrating. What tradition do you need in this game? Or that is, if it's not in the game, you're going to be like, I'm throwing this puppy out today. It's going in the trash.
I would have to say, because those actually would be relatively new to the game. Because those really weren't part. Yeah. So, I mean, give me, I guess Michigan with Brightside. I mean, because that's just what they do. It's not because like any of them really. If any of them aren't in there, it's kind of like, well, that's a big portion of any of the colleges, unless it's one that's just like random where it's kind of like where.
Do you need this kind of piggies back off of tradition? Do you want a feature in the game to pick your color out game? So white out, maize out. Ohio State does a blackout from time to time.
I mean, it'd be kind of cool to have that in there. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. You'd be almost like setting up. NHL does this. Promotion nights.
Okay.
You get the NHL, like those games are a lot different because you could do, I think, like 6 or 8, but you just pick like 2 or 3. You could do like your whiteout game, and like 2 other ones.
Right.
And you usually pick them on like your home games against rivals or whatever. Yeah. Because then that's when you could also piggyback and have your recruits visit that same week.
That same night, and it might give you bonus points, like 5% more bonus points per recruit. I think in terms of tradition, I want like the in game, like I need bound, I need jump around, I need bright side. Like, even if you press A through the screen, right, like from the third to the fourth quarter, even if you press A, like as you're starting the fourth quarter, they're stopping, singing the song. Even if it can't be the words, it needs to be the tune.
The one that probably would, just because it's probably one of the biggest one in the college football, is the Iowa.
Oh, the waving of the kids? Yeah.
I would be kind of not upset, but I'd be like, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
Like that, like why would you not put that in, kind of thing?
Cowbells from Mississippi State. That's going to be so annoying. That's going to be in there.
Well, yeah, because unless they do what they did with Madden, and they do like that stadium atmosphere, and the camera shakes and everything like that.
Yeah,
you do it like that, which can be annoying, but I get it because it's also part of the game. They could do that. They used to do that, didn't they?
They in like 06, it would show like the crowd meter in like the upper right, and it would go up and up and up, and then your controller would shake. I'm okay if you want to put home field advantage in there and make it a feature like that, but it needs to be, again, not overly complicated. If you want to do squiggle art to where you can't see the plays, that's fine. That's fine. But
I
you
don't
just don't
need the controller to shake. I don't need that.
Yeah,
That's annoying.
yeah.
I
Pick
get
one or
it.
the other. Pick
But
one or
like,
the other. Either
yeah,
good art and controller shake, or no controller shake and the art can be squiggly,
yeah.
and your screen can be rocking and rotating or whatever.
I need Pat McAfee in it too.
You need Pat. I need multiple networks in it, so that it's not the same play callers every single game.
Oh yeah, I can see
Right?
that. That'd be
Because that's the thing about college football is, I mean, for the most part, you're getting a new announcing crew every single game. So I need Fowler and Herbie. I do some Gus Johnson, Joe Klatt, and then I mean the guy on CBS, what's his name? He always would do the play-by-play for all the old all the old NCAA football games. Put him in there, absolutely, with someone else. Give me 3 different, so that every few games it changes or whatever, and I'll be good to go with that.
Hi, I'm Paul.
I bet you they don't do that. I bet you they just pick.
They just do one.
Well, they'll probably do Herb Street, Reese, and then they'll do sideline reporters.
Oh, well, they never really did sideline. No game really does sideline report. Madden doesn't do sideline, right?
And I think NBA, I think 2K, NBA 2K is the only one that
Okay,
really does. Like
all right.
Yeah.
Well, see, I would be okay with sideline reporters. Like giving injury updates. Like you have a player go out with injury, and instead of you getting a screen, Mike started to interrupt, but so and so just went out. He will not be able to return to the game. He will be out 4 weeks. Something automated like that.
You make it like RG3 is given that announcement, or like Molly or stuff like that.
Oh, RG3 would be a good one.
Yeah.
RG3 would definitely be a good one. All right, so we are excited for college football 2024. We are also looking forward to the draft. Football over. Super Bowl just happening, except when the UFL, United Football League, takes over end of March, beginning of April.
March, April, yeah.
Yeah. So hip hip hooray for all the wives who thought that they would have a football-free spring and summer. You're more of a draft guy than I am. You watch Combine a little more than I do. What is your attraction to the Combine?
I guess, well, my biggest attraction is just the fact that you kind of see players for who they are. You see them not in like they're essentially not in their element. You see these players who now they have to talk. That's one of the big ones when they have to give interviews, because most of these guys don't talk, other than on the field. Most of them also don't know how to talk. They don't know how to use the proper etiquette for talking to news anchors and stuff like that. But then you also see, they do the 40-yard dash. It's like, man, that guy's really fast. And it's like, well, yeah, because he's just running in a straight line. That's like the most impossible thing to do in college football, because you don't run a straight line, whether it's wide receivers, running backs, whatever, most of the time. But then just watching the different drills, watching these guys just kind of move. You don't see too many like linemen getting like doing like the shuttle run, and it's like, okay, yeah, that guy's got some wheels. But you don't see that during the games, because it's just, they're within 3 yards of each other,
Michigan set a combine record. There was a large speculation belief that Michigan would break the players drafted record that Georgia set. Harbaugh said before the season, I got 21 players. Now, so Donovan Edwards came back. He was classified. So 18 basically declared, right?
Yeah.
And all 18 got invited to the combine. That's a new combine record. So it's going to be a Michigan party. That's where they're back to back to back Big Ten champs, Indy. What I want to talk about is JJ's draft stock. JJ McCarthy. He don't got the stats as the Caleb's, the Mays, the Jaden Daniels. Name any quarterback in the upcoming draft. He does not have the stats that will remotely compare to that, except for maybe completion percentage and QBR. Okay. He threw for 140 yards in the national title game. Now, I will put a caveat. Michigan rushed for 304 yards. So, combined, that's almost 350 yards or 450 yards. I've heard reports that he is a fourth-round talent. I've heard other reports from more reliable sources that the NFL scouts are like, whether people like it or not, dude's a top 15 pick. Gut feeling, we've watched him the most, but I want your opinion. Is he said top 15 pick? And what's his ceiling in the NFL?
To the right team, yeah, he's a top 15. To the right team. Now, the hard part with JJ is there's times where JJ looks like, yeah, he's an absolutely 100% bona fide NFL quarterback. He looks it in the systems, he looks great, but then there's other times where it's like, okay, who's this guy? And we saw that a lot this year. Last year, not so much, but this year I think we saw a lot of ups and downs with him. But also we didn't really actually say, okay, let's take the roof off. Mainly because we didn't have to. But
he had a 4-week stretch beginning right smack dab middle of the season, right after Harbaugh got back, starting with the Nebraska game, where he was just ridiculously good, right? It was JJ for Heisman after the run of it was, okay, JJ's here, Michigan's here, national title. If JJ plays like this, he's going to usurp Caleb Williams. He's going to win the Heisman. He's going to win the Natty, and he's going to be a first overall pick. I agree. It just wasn't the play style. Now,
right.
One thing I will say he needs to work on, and he knows this, and I'm sure his private quarterback coach out in California or Illinois or wherever he's working out at is going to tell him this. He's got to get better touch on his deep ball.
Mm-hmm.
His arm talent is there. Listen, first game that he played last year or 2 years ago, true freshman. Do you remember this play? He's Western Michigan, I think, escapes out to the right along the right-hand sideline, throws it all the way back across the field, opposite hash, past it on a dime in a breadbasket, and it's like a 65-yard touchdown. Arm talent's there, the athleticism there. I believe the IQ is there because Jim Harbaugh doesn't play idiots at quarterback. Okay. If he was just looking for arm talent and athleticism, Joe Milton would have been our starting quarterback, okay, for longer than 1 week. There's no way Cade McNamara should have taken Joe Milton's job physically. Headspace is there, the moxie, the poise is there, the cockiness is there. What team would benefit him to go to? Does he need to sit, or is he in a position where if he's surrounded by vets and it's a 50%, 60% running football team, he's going to be okay? Like, what team does he need to do to have a long-term career? I'm not talking Super Bowls. I'm just saying a good, solid NFL career.
I mean, when you look at who the system that Michigan kind of ran, where like he did his best, of course you want to look at it and you want to say, oh, the Chargers, but that would be probably the worst case scenario for him just because they have Justin Herbert. That dude, Justin Herbert is just on the wrong side of history with the ownership, management, coaches. There's no reason that they shouldn't be a Super Bowl contender every year, but they usually get a shit coach, but now they have Harbaugh, and we'll see how that goes.
Right. Yep.
Honestly, like San Francisco wouldn't be bad because because Shanahan knows what he's doing until he gets to the Super Bowl. But Purdy's playing great. I mean, he could sit
Yeah,
behind Purdy for a year or two and then take over if Purdy kind of falls off.
I'm
Which
that
who knows if that happens? Or
Detroit.
Detroit wouldn't be bad either. The two that I think that he could probably benefit the most is either Detroit or Atlanta.
Okay. I think Atlanta, though, that's a young, talented roster.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of growing for them,
Yeah.
but they would need a little more help wide receiver wise for him. But again, he really didn't have. I mean, Roman Wilson was a great wide receiver. Cornelius Johnson was a good receiver sometimes.
Sometimes.
Um,
Yep.
But they got Bijan, who's potentially going to be a very good running back. Kyle Pitts, who's a very good tight end. That's where kind of JJ lived. He had decent run. He had decent, good running backs. He had tight ends that got out in space. And
Can I drop another team on you?
yeah, go for it, brother.
Seattle. Sorry.
Seattle won't be bad too.
Right. Okay.
They're aging a little bit, but that's probably he might need that.
Mike McDonald.
Yeah.
Jay Harbaugh's there. Right. It's a very Michigan. They got Kenneth Walker. They got Charbonnet there. So a good, solid running game. Defense is young with a defensive-minded head coach. As long as he gets a good offensive coordinator.
Yeah. That's the next thing is getting a decent.
Yeah. So, let's kind of segue, and we'll kind of close with this. I said on the 10-minute sports report to everyone, I implored Michigan fans to prepare yourselves. Last spring, early summer, I said Michigan should be the national champions. I don't know if you remember me saying that. I put out an Instagram post. I said Michigan should be national championship. Their entire team returned from basically their entire team returned from 21 to 22. Right, returning quarterback, returning 2 running backs, returning offensive line. Transport entire defense returned. 2022 to 2020 or 23 to 24. Opposite. Basically, brand new offense outside of your right guard / center and running back, who, let's be honest, regressed last year, Donovan Edwards. Your defense returns 1 edge rusher, your 2 defensive tackles, your 2 safeties, and 1 corner, maybe, if they can keep them. They finally hired Wink Martindale. He runs the same system, but we'll see if he can connect with players. He's older. Oh, and we return Colston on the offensive side. The schedule. Fresno State, good team, good Mountain West team. Texas. People are picking them as betting odds as 2024 national champions. On the road at Washington, which doesn't seem so daunting, but let's be honest, Jed Fish is going to get them boys up and ready to go, and that's going to be a fight. Oregon's at home. UCLA is at home. USC's on the road. Ohio State's on the road. We play Minnesota at home. I'm thinking we are rooting for 9-3. 9-3 is like, okay, we are still relevant. 9-3 and all 3 losses are within 10 points, right? Oh, we are still relevant. 8-4, I'm like, and the losses are good, right? Except maybe a blowout loss to Texas, but the other 3 losses are good. Ohio State is a tough matchup, right? Lose a bowl game, 8-5, whatever. Michigan fans got to prepare for that. Like, this is not a playoff on paper, not a playoff caliber team. If Michigan makes playoffs, is that... Let me rephrase the question. Are we going to find out just how good Sharon Moore is in year 1?
No. You're never going to find out how good a coach is year 1. Sharon's he walked into like a best case, worst case kind of situation where he walked in as a national champion, and he's essentially rebuilding because essentially all of Michigan's staff has gone to the LA Chargers.
Yep.
And everyone can be you can be mad. It's like, but that's the name of the game. That's the goal for them. That is the same as the kid transferring to go to Ohio State, to wherever, to get better and get to the NFL. So if year one we have a winning record with the schedule that we have, I'm ecstatic. I mean, if we go 7-6, not ideal, but it's a winning record with a team that is, we're still trying to figure out who's going to be there when it comes around that time. But, winning record, if we go, we win a bowl game, that's great. We build off of that. We're on the right side at this point because, we're essentially looking at a new defensive coordinator. We're looking at new, essentially everything, so.
Wouldn't you think though if he goes 9-3, 10? Let's just say 10. Let's just say 10-2, right? 10-2, you're probably making college football playoff, depending on where and when and by how much your losses are. Let's just say 9-3, and he's on, and they're in that discussion for the 12th spot, right? Wouldn't you be like, okay, Sharon Moore had to rebuild the entire staff on short notice. He had to rebuild the entire offense. He had to keep all the defensive players in-house. Wouldn't you be like, dude can coach, right? Wouldn't it in that,
Yeah.
right? Like if he goes 8-4, 7-5, then it's like, oh, well, I still don't know because it's year one, because he had to rebuild the staff on short notice, keep all the defensive players in house, right, and rebuild the offense. Right. But if he 9-3, 10-2, 11-1, it's like, oh my gosh, Sharon Moore is the next coming of Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at, you still don't know anything after year one, like. Because if he goes 11-1 and we're like, this is great, that next year we could drop.
Sure.
And it's kind of like, oh, maybe we weren't right. But the biggest thing is we just got to stay competitive. As long as he keeps Michigan competitive, I can live with 7, 8, 9 wins. If we're competitive, we lose by a field goal and it's like a 40-yard field goal, what have you, or at least we were fighting until the very end. We threw a pick and that was kind of the game. And it's like, I'm okay with that. As long as we're not out there getting blown out, we're not losing games that we should be winning. We're not losing to Fresno State. We're not losing to Minnesota. The expectation is always to win a Big Ten championship for me. But I can live with a first-year head coach, with building everything, sitting at 7 and 8 wins and going, we're okay. 7, 8 wins, we're okay. Because that next year, if we stay stagnant, it's kind of like, okay, where do we need to make our adjustments? Or if we regress, then it's like, okay, maybe Sharon's really not who we thought he was. Or if we get 9 wins, 10 wins, whatever, it's kind of like, okay, we're still building. That train's still going.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
It also still just is, is he going to be able to, what's his recruiting look like? This first year isn't going to be his guys. Like, it's not going to be his recruiting team. Like, these are all kids who we're looking for Klink, looking for Harb, you know what I mean? Kind of stuff like that, but still kind of looking for Sharon, where 2025, this is Sharon.
Right.
These are guys that want to come play for Sharon, not for Harbaugh, not for Klink, not for, Minter. Like,
right.
That's when it's like, okay, if we're getting 4s and 5 stars, it's kind of like, this is going to be different. because we've always sat with the 3s and 4s and built them up. But now if we're getting 4s and 5s, is this just going to turn into Ohio State where it's just transfer?
Right. I think another thing that should be Sharon's a little more heavy on the recruiting, but I would like I think that he's going to make the team his own. He's going to, make the game plan his own. But if he's smart, because he's been there. I mean, he's a Michigan dude, basically.
Yeah.
Central Michigan to Michigan, been there 7 of Harbaugh's 8 years, basically was through the ups and downs, and most notably, the ups. He'll tell the recruits, you ain't coming playing for me, for Harbaugh, for Clay, for whoever. You're coming to play for the University of Michigan. And those are the type of kids that we want, or at least I want. I want the kids who are there for the other kids who don't really care who the coach is or who they're playing. They're going to go out and they're going to give championship level effort, time in and time out. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Well, that'll do it for this rendition of the 10-minute sports report. Wow.
That's a long 10 minutes, man.
That's a long 10 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Wash your hands, you filthy animals. See you next time.